You've landed at Spark Launch, the guide star for embracing what it means to be neurodiverse. Here, we navigate mental health triumphs and tribulations from all across the spectrum, charting a course through the shared experiences that unite us, and discovering how to embody the unique strengths within neurodivergent and neurotypical alike, igniting your spark and launching it into a better tomorrow.
We are thrilled to welcome back to the show Kristin Walker, the founder and CEO of Mental Health News Radio Network.
Welcome back, Kristin. Every time I talk to you, meet you, see you, it's like meeting my family. And I know you'll have something to share.
For any of your listeners that don't know, I got diagnosed with autism and ADHD a couple of years ago, right after I turned 54, and I just turned 56. So that has been a really trippy ass journey. Like every time you think that you're like, I'm free, another little thing that you were hiding or whatever that you still have a habit about shows itself up, and you actually have the room to heal it now because you're not masking anymore. So one of the things I thought about was I did all 12 years of my podcast and my speaking, and I did speaking before, but the podcast piece, I did that fully masked, completely unaware. The last season, I did a few shows during the unmasking process, and it was wobbly. I can tell looking at myself that I was just seizing inside really hard. A lot of loops dropping all the time. I went through a whole period of thinking, I really am disabled. Masking was masking my incompetence. I absolutely believed that. And I think I needed to swim around in that for a while and kind of accept that as a possible reality. Because that's what we do, right? When we're wired like this, like we dive all into things and we explore every available terrain that we have access to. And people think we're weird for doing this, but I think it's actually brilliant. So I did that. And then I came out of it and went, I wasn't masking my incompetence. I was masking every great thing about myself, because every great thing about myself attracts attention. And when you're hiding, you don't want attention.
What a beautiful statement, because that's what you're hiding is exactly what the world needs, what the universe needs, because there is that authenticity, and authenticity has power. And we need that difference, especially in this world of AI. That difference is exactly what the world needs. Show away your imperfections, your flaws, because they have stories, they have wisdom, and the world needs it.
Yeah, I thought about taking all of them down because I was kind of embarrassed. Like, oh my God, I did all. And then I came to a new conclusion. I took some down just because I interviewed some people that right now I would attract. I interviewed some survivors of abuse and so on that are very publicly in the news right now. And that's not a safe place for me to be in that I'm caretaking someone. I used to be all out with all that kind of stuff. And now it's like, okay, those will stay private for now. And there will be a time again when those will be unearthed. But I don't want to take down any of the me from before, because that was such an important part of the journey to now.
Because that masked version was still you, but you didn't know, the lack of awareness, right? And it's so important because that speaks forgiveness, because you have to forgive that old version because you didn't know. And so many are in that place, and so was I. So if we don't acknowledge and honor that masked version of ourselves, how would we evolve? You can't pretend that it never happened. You were just following a script given to you by somebody else.
Even the parts where I said things that were completely ignorant because I didn't have the knowledge at the time. I'm sure I said high functioning, and I said all kinds of things that are, no-nos now. And I don't care about that either. If someone doesn't take the time to look at the date that something was recorded, that's their issue, not mine. I don't need to go back and edit. I'm done editing myself. The best parts of me are the unedited parts, and the fact that I can bring my unedited self to the forefront and speak clearly is an even better part of me.
I was following somebody on YouTube, and that person has now retired for a couple of years. But that person was really amazing, and it was the same background, it was the same body language, and now there's a whole AI channel of that person with, which looks exactly like that person, but you can tell there's no soul in it, right? So So I think that weirdness that we have is our strength because nobody, at least, can copy me. If you're looking away, for some reason, it's so hard for me to look into the camera.
No, I want to see you and you're over there. You're not here. I don't want to miss all of this by looking at a camera. I don't care. People can look at the side of my head because I want to look at your beautiful face. I want to see who I'm speaking to. So whatever about the camera.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that quirkiness is what sets you apart, and which is you. So which part are we hiding?
I think leaving up that past version of ourselves, because I'm on the internet tons of times, in fortunate ways, and
right
it shows what the difference is between this is me when I was doing things that weren't serving me and was hurting me, harming me, ultimately, and this is me now, and this is how far I've actually managed to come. Like, there's to me, that's showing positivity. I was just ironically having a conversation last night about unmasking and the difference my brain acts since I began unmasking. That I think in the setting we were talking about, it was referred to as sludge brain. And I like that. I like sludge brain, where I am a little bit slower in speaking. I have slow processing, so that comes through a little bit more. I feel a little bit less quick on my feet, and someone else was saying the same thing, and about how confusing it was, because she was like, I was always on it. I was always quick. I always felt knowledgeable, and now it's like I can't join in the same way. Why am I suddenly, quote unquote, more autistic now than I used to be? A lot of that was a masquerade of trying to come across like I was informed or was a little bit more with it and involved. I found shortcuts to make it seem like I was able to keep up with conversations, that I had more quick insights and I wasn't stopping to pause. Like, no, I knew ways to pause a conversation while talking, so that way I could process things slowly. And I would also come loaded for bear. Like, I intook so much prep work for just a random conversation, and anything I couldn't do prep work for, I didn't involve myself in.
So true.
It's not that I've gotten dumber. It's just like, I just don't do that anymore. I don't want to. Like, it's exhausting. It's stupid. And it's actually kind of fun to go back and it's weird, but it's fun to go back and look at old versions of me and how I talked and went, I'm saying a lot of stuff. It doesn't mean anything. It's just to seem like I'm involved in the conversation. Like, my brain's working at the same exact speed it was previously. That's not Mike that's talking. That's reprogrammed scripts that are talking. And I don't really script so much anymore.
I don't either. I mean, I remember about maybe a few years into doing my show. I mean, I did it, 12 years is a long freaking time. So I just abandoned it being an interview. But I still, even today, I can look, even though there are more conversations, I can still look at them and see, I'm still I was at 15%. Now I'm at 30. And I'm doing a new show called Conversations in Space. It's a name brought to me by someone else. It's something that we created together, but I'm going to be doing the hosting of it. And they're not going to be edited. I don't care if somebody's dog runs in the room or whatever. That's the whole point, is they're not going to be edited. If we have to close a show early because chaos erupts, in someone's house, then we will say, all right, well, everybody, thanks for joining us. Bye. It's just going to be totally unedited and conversations. And my goal will be to make myself get to the point where I'm taking up at least 50% overall of the conversation. That'll show you how much because I can give way like nobody's business. But I don't want to give way I want to give way for myself too. So it's an exercise for me. And I'll still keep doing mental health news radio, of course, but this will be a new kind of a play space where I want to have people like you guys on. And I really want to talk to deeply interior men, because that are most likely going through their own unmasking process, late diagnosed, because that is a species that I have been wounded by the most. And some of these men, like you, Mike, are incredible human beings. And I have them in my life as really close friends. And I kind of want to let them, it's not my story to tell men about men at all. I want them to show up and show this is what interior men are like. This is what you're all kind of not seeing and angry about. It isn't not, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater here. And the same with women. I just have had a huge focus on women, and I will continue to have a huge focus on women. But I have a son. I want to know this. This is really important to me. So that's why the show has to be about conversations in space, because my brain goes out there, and I want to celebrate that.
I can't wait to be invited. Let's elevate ourselves and go to space.
Absolutely.
And we can connect more purely and with love and honesty. I also want to say, we were talking about masking, and masking makes us fit into a box. That's why we mask, because we want to fit into that box. That box has less, because there's a lot of people who come to me and say, I wish I could be like you, but I cannot because I have these commitments. And I feel they need to be there in that box, because for whatever reason, they agree that they have to be in the box because they have a lesson, and you have to learn your lessons, and they are life lessons, right? Not a degree or certificate. And once you learn and evolve, you will automatically be thrown out of the box because you cannot fit into the box anymore. So I feel they have lessons, and there was a purpose for it.
Absolutely. I mean, I just wrote a piece. That's the big thing now, too. Nothing can interfere with writing right now. Like, nothing. If I do something other than writing, it is because it is a duty of care, and I love it, and I'm writing while I'm performing the duty of care. There is always an essay going on. Thousands. Sometimes there are many at the same time. Like, that is just how my freaking brain works. I am always writing an essay. And I've got 54 years of bottleneck. So I started something at the beginning of this year, which was, you know what? This is not a journey for me to go find myself. I'm here. I need to catch up to where I'm actually at and grow from there. So I'm giving myself this long runway of 2026 to continue to do this process where I figure out and feel into and inhabit who I actually am, because I did not see who I was back then. I am astonished when I go, wow, I did all of that at sometimes half of myself. Wow. That's, just everything about when you get diagnosed and all of that, the world is still set up to see autism and ADHD, neurodivergence in general, as a deficit. And it is so not a freaking deficit. And I was operating in a deficit before. I'm certainly not going to step into this new experience where I feel so free and continue to operate as if I have some kind of a deficit. So I need to really... I've been examining different projects, different things that happened in my life where I really just only saw myself like this big. Even if I was speaking on a stage, I saw myself like about that big. I just could not see all of who I am. And this year for me is about, okay, you got bottleneck, you're going to catch up to, it's going to come in fast. And then when I get there, then I'm excited to see what happens from that place where I'm actually walking around with all of who I am, feeling that all of the time. Does that make sense?
Deficit living is something we all really get stuck in, I think. Everybody. To always see that we are trying to get out of a hole. There's a better way of taking in the parts of ourselves that I think are messy, that they're not necessarily deficits. They are parts that don't need to be bothered with. If I ask one of my friends to fix a car, their inability to fix a car would not be seen as a deficit, just something they can't do. I kind of feel like the same way for my stuff. I don't drive. You could say that's a deficit. No, that's just not something I am going to take up brain space with. Like, how about all the other stuff that I can do that aren't deficits? That's the stuff that I'm good at. Doesn't serve me to try to work with those quote unquote deficits. They're just a waste of time. There's all these things we could be doing. We could be putting our special interests in towards, and instead we focus on the deficits, on what doesn't work, what doesn't go. I like to cook, so I'm going to use a cooking analogy. If I want to make tandoori chicken, if I do not have the ingredients for it, well, then do I just not eat? No, then I just make what I actually have available to be able to create and make. Like, that's what I feel like I do with the podcast. That's what you do with the network and everything that you create. What you bring to the table, what you bring that no one else can. We are our neurotypes, our mental health struggles. It seems like, we are overcoming great odds at all times. because of that. Sometimes it's not that we're overcoming odds. We just are done focusing on all the crap that you say we can't do and that's important.
Everybody has some deficit, right? So let's focus on our strengths. Even the neurotypicals, what we can do, they cannot. And let's just admit that. But nobody ever listed them because the world didn't need it. But now we need it. We need the creatives. We need the odd. We need the quirky, odd, especially in the age of AI. So let's not point fingers to them and say, hey, you have all these deficits. Let's all just focus on our strengths. And, highlight those instead of the deficits, because we all have every single human being. We're not meant to be like everybody and, God to be.
I know, it's funny. It's funny because I spent all of my life looking at deficits, all of it. I mean, trauma, huge, soul rupturing trauma as a baby, carried that forward. And so all of my life was like, even the network and everything was about me getting information about myself. And, I can have these other people giving information too with their own shows, and that will help other people and themselves. But it was always from, that because there's something wrong that I need to figure out. And I'm so done with that. I feel like I explored the terrain. Really, I got every ounce of juice I could get out of trauma and deficit and negative and always threat mapping everywhere I go, seeing only threat. And I understand why. There's no shame in that. I mean, look at my freaking childhood. Of course, I was architected that way for a long time. And now I'm just like, there are no deficits. Everything is great. I can make meaning out of a leaf falling from a tree, and I can write a poem about it, and it's absolutely gorgeous, even if it's just for me. So I am like allergic right now to looking at anything negatively. I have habits that make me do that. And as I'm coming out of this kind of almost year-long isolation that I've been in, caretaking my mom, I'm with my pets, and it's been unbelievable to sit with myself and examine and work on all the things that I learned from all these people I interviewed, and just kind of put all that together and go, okay, how do I see this now from this place? And I'm just done with the that side of things. Now I'm like, okay, let's see everything through like a love model, love yourself model, through a love other people model. And I'm starting to interact with humans again more. And that's interesting. It's interesting to see myself, even in a conversation, seeing how much I bend for someone else, how much I give them the room and give them more of the floor, and how I let them kind of tell me who I am. And now I just kind of go, that's interesting what they tried to do there. Okay, I'm not going to flow with that. I'm going to steer the conversation somewhere else now, because I want to keep it at a positive, not the kind of positivity that makes you throw up. I mean, there's obviously, I've got all these years of reality behind me where things were bad, but I really like going in this direction because I have not explored this direction. The other direction is what I've explored. So right now, everything just feels amazing. I use the word yummy all the time because it's just what it feels like. Everything just feels yummy. Just everything is mwah, chef's kiss.
Do you know when that happens? When you are absolutely in love with yourself.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yes. So that's when you find love in others and you start seeing the beauty in others. And that's our journey in life, is to be in love with every odd, quirky character of yours, because that's beautiful. And when you do that, you are automatically giving permission to somebody else to do the same.
I've had some people show up, some men show up that I've been like, oh boy, don't get lost there, Kristin, because you're on this journey. That this is a signpost, not that they're a signpost. They're amazing. They've been, again, chef's kiss. However, they were meant to help me get somewhere, and I was meant to help them get somewhere. And then we keep going like that. And some have become really good friends, but I'm so early on this journey. I cannot stop at the first signpost. I don't want to get lost in someone else when I'm still mapping what's in here. And that's been difficult because I'm extremely passionate and extremely relational and extremely giving and caring. But this relationship with self is primary, and it always will be primary, even in a relationship with someone else. I protect myself like a ninja. I learned that masked. I get to take those tools with me forward. So even in an intimate relationship, I can absolutely say no where I would have bypassed some things before because my longing was so big. And the longing wasn't about another person. It was longing for self. I'm bad. I'm negative. I'm causing a problem. I'm too much, whatever. And then I go, wait a minute. No, let's look at it this other way. This is all good. You're a warrior. Like, keep going.
Relationships are so important because we are here to connect. And in my past, the way I discovered my authentic self is through relationships, a lot through relationships, and a lot through, of course, going inward. I realized I was more freer in certain relationships, and I liked it, and I was able to speak everything. Actually, one of my closest friends today, I'm so grateful, the last 3 years before I started Spark Launch, I spent every minute speaking to her, and she did the same. And so we gave permissions to be ourselves, and I love that version. And then there were other parts of me that I found in other relationships.
Yes.
So all of that made me realize what I love about me. And of course, the tough relationships also showed me why was I getting triggered. And so I think they're always teaching, and then you go outward and then back inwards and learn lessons, and then again go outward, and then again. We're constant. We're here to connect. And
we're relational beings. That is what we do. So we do, I think, have to learn these tools where we go, hi, okay, let's just kind of, be careful for a little bit before we go, zoop.
One thing you said that really stuck with me is longing for self, which is such a good way of putting it. And I really believe that so much of mental strife that we have to overcome when we're a type of people like we are, and particularly when it comes to neurodivergence, is longing for self is what it all boils down to. Everyone is very disconnected from ourselves. Everyone. This goes for holistics, this goes for neurodivergence, whatever. Neurodivergence, though, we almost have no sense of self half the time. And some of that is real biological components, and some of that is societal and cultural components. And we are longing for connection to others, but through connection to others, we are able to connect to ourselves. That's why you see neurodivergents go meet someone else for the first time and just compare some random tiny little trait that they do, and their world is friggin' rocked by it. And it's like, because that's what it is. It's like, oh, I am longing to figure out what I am. Not even so much who I am, just what I am. Like, what creature am I? How do I interact with myself? How do I be? So much of the kind of piss poor relationships with other people we fall into that are damaging comes from trying to long for ourselves through other people. And we get taken advantage of because of that. But it does always kind of come back to ourselves. And you find the space that you didn't know existed for what you are as a human being.
Absolutely. Finding that space is that's the glorious part. Just every time I peel back something else and bring something out into the open, I have more terrain. Every time I say no, another chamber opens that I get to explore. Every time a new relationship comes in, that also opens a chamber. I mean, it's just, before it was just like, okay, I am so overwhelmed. I can't do more than like this. Like, this is as far as I can go outward. And I thought I was evolved. Okay. I really believed that I was evolved. I was doing the best I could. But now it's just overwhelming, but in the best way. It's as overwhelming as it was before, but that turned into pain, extraction, all of these trauma things that I had to get over. And now they are just, I tell everybody, it only takes a teaspoon now. Like, I can get a teaspoon of something and do all this stuff with it. So it isn't that, I need spoons. I needed to watch my spoons and do the spoon theory when I was masked. And I didn't do that. I just blew through everything like a freaking donkey. That was, and then sometimes, different ways. But I don't need the spoon theory now. that I'm unmasked, which I think people look at me like, oh no, you still need that. I do need to be careful with myself because I am precious, right? So I'm going to take care of myself and watch what I'm doing and watch how I eat, and because I care about myself, but it's not a net negative anymore. We are regeneration machines, aren't we? Like we can just go.
We're here to create. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The more I write, the more room I have inside. And I read my own writing, and that also helps me, where before I never listened and I never read what I wrote. I just barfed it out, left it alone. I never listened to my shows, nothing. And now I'm like, I want to hear everything that was said. I want to see what I was saying. If it's on video, I want to read what I wrote. Like I'm so invested in all this that it's a little sickening probably to someone from the outside, and I don't care.
Yeah. I get that. Like people say that they can't listen to themselves, right? Because I was there too. But now I listen to every podcast of mine because I'm going to listen to that wisdom that comes out of me because maybe I should remember that.
Exactly. Let's make a meme so I can have it show up and remember I said that. That was a thought in here, and it went beep.
Because now that can be a Substack post, right? For you.
And it might help somebody else.
Yeah,
make
we
them
know
do the
how
same
to
thing.
repurpose stuff. And we're here to generate. We're here to just like live big.
And it's like, oh God, I lived pretty darn big. I have had a big life when I was masked. What the hell is going to happen now? I'm like excited. I just mean, look at what I was able to do where I had so little of myself. And now that I'm having more and more, what is going to come out of that? Like, I'm really excited to discover that. Think about it, 50 years, right, of every morning was existential dread. I mean, unless I was, waking up with a hangover in my drinking years. And so that was like a fog that I could stay within that kept me from the thinking that I couldn't handle. And now I don't have that. I'm free of all of that stuff. And it's just kind of like there's all this available terrain now that I want to map. And I lost my thread here, but you know what? That's what we do, right? I don't remember what I was talking about at the beginning of that one. But anyway.
We never do. It's a wonder we were able to actually have a functioning podcast at any time.
I know for you, I bet that makes it real. Like, where is Chaya going with this one? She didn't land it, but she went somewhere else really interesting.
No, it's like I never end up the same place that I start. Never have, never probably will. Sometimes I can just have a conversation with myself for a little while and just kind of drift off and not quite know what point I was going to make. Hopefully I'll make a point eventually. Like I'll get there. But like on this journey of fulfilling yourself, how do you see your podcast and your network evolving once again?
Yeah, I think something new is coming. I don't think that the technology has presented itself quite yet as to what the new is, but whatever it is, I'll be moving that way. What I kind of see, because obviously I like to scale, that's fun, like the architecture of scaling things. Like I could have just done a podcast. No, I have to turn it into a freaking network and then bring all these people, I had to, because that's what I do. I can't help it. I mean, I'm even like, oh, I published a book. Okay, I did that. That was interesting. I don't want to do it that way anymore. My creations are going to go somewhere new, right? So how I sort of look at my wanting to scale and have community around scaling is something like a silo where there's a lot of other silos because we're all fiercely independent, right? But a place where everybody does their own thing, much like how the network functions now. And they also do things together, create things together that are behind a paywall or that are, so that, obviously we have to eat. So there will be things that are involved around money, but I don't want to be the entity that's in charge of all that and the entity that takes care of the money. I want it to be everybody is independently doing their own thing. And when we do things together, money is shared in the respectful way it should be, but we're not feeding this corporation on top. I don't like that model. So I see people with different gifts and we just kind of are there so that one person can come in and find all these different places that they may need to get healing from or learn something from or find themselves in. They'll include podcasting. They'll include, with the Conversation in Space show, I'm going to turn that into a graphic novel also that's going to be online, and I'm going to have different things that I'm doing with that. And some people, will join me in doing that with me, and some people won't. But I'm just thinking, it's kind of like this. Here's an easier way. I have a missing tooth, like way back here, because I decided one night that it was a really good idea to rip the retainer that was behind my front teeth right out with pliers, because that was a good decision. Probably rum and coke was involved. I don't remember. But anyway, so I did that. And so I created like this space back here and where a tooth could fit, right? But I'm not going to go to the dentist right now. I don't like dentistry right now. Sorry, dentists. I worked for a dentist for a long time. I had this missing space or the space here. When CRISPR technology is advanced enough to create new teeth in a way that is not so effing traumatic, I will gladly go at that time and have this space taken care of, because it's a pain in the ass, actually. That's kind of how I feel about this, about what's coming next for the network and for what I'm doing. I don't quite know yet, because the technology hasn't landed in front of me yet to see that's what I'm going to do, but I'm moving in that direction.
It reminds me of the way people will find uses for technology for community and betterment in such surprising ways. My mind goes to the VR world and this interesting thing that I've been fascinated with for years, which is in VR chat, there ended up being this massive community of the deaf. Fascinated me because what they did is they created a secondary sign language that could only be used in VR, because obviously it couldn't be one-to-one with actual sign language. And they created this giant hall that has a breakdown so that way you can go there and learn it, and create this huge community around this one particular thing so that way everyone could congregate and find themselves across time and space to do this one thing. It's like, yeah, that's for VR, which no one would have assumed that's what that particular thing would be used for. They would find a way to create sign language in it using the dopey VR controllers. But people find a way, and people find a way to move us forward in how we connect and how we engage with, once again, ourselves.
I've watched the whole publishing industry from the inside out, being that I've had so many authors on my show, and I don't like where it is. I don't like that my book, under my pen name, is buried on Amazon. I didn't do anything to promote it because I didn't want to, but I don't feel good about that medium anymore. I don't need to prove that I wrote a book, that I can write a book. I did. I wrote 2. I'm good. Now I want to take them and do something else. Like every chapter is an essay. Whew, that is my medium, essays. I want to make all the meaning I can and keep it at this many words. I love the constraints of that. So there's got to be a way to share your book in a new way, where every chapter is like its own standalone piece. And where does it live? Is it just in print? Is it an experience online? Like, what the hell is it? That is what I'm excited to find out.
Yeah. I think every word has energy to it. Even if nobody reads it, you put it out.
That's right.
In the ether, right? So it's going somewhere. So which is great. So
I'm like, someone in Hong Kong read my book about autism? Cool.
Like how I feel anytime I see our podcast was downloaded in Siberia. That's weird.
It's so cool to look at. I never looked at my numbers, you guys. Seriously. I would always be like, I don't want to know. I might change how I say things if I know that there's that many people listening. Like and I would be shocked. I'd be like, okay, I can't look at that for another 3 years because that's it. And now I'm like, really? Who's tuning in? Who read that? I don't care if it's one person. I'm just like, oh my God, that's so cool. Now I can read it again and think about how they might have taken that. It's amazing. It's amazing how much look.
I think that itself is an indication that you're in love with yourself. Because I hated my previous self because I knew in my soul that wasn't me, right? And I think it's the same with everybody. Because that was small and didn't say what she really wanted to say because she had a lot to say. But then she was not emotionally regulated. So it would have come out in bad ways like, or
nothing.
Or cry. So I would cry of anger.
Oh, yeah.
That was one way of expression. Anger would turn into tears. And then I'm like, I'm not sad, I'm angry. And so that's why emotional regulation is also critical. And learning about boundaries, because you can't change people. They might not recognize us, but that's okay.
As we've asked you on the other appearance, how can people find the Mental Health News Radio Network and see what else you will be having in the future?
You can Google Mental Health News Radio. That's probably the easiest. That goes to my show, which you can that gets you to the network, which sees your guys, your show and everybody else's show. You can find me there. And then Conversations in Space will also live there.
Kristin, it's always such a wonderful stream of consciousness. Anytime we talk, I probably enjoy these episodes more than anything else I get to record in regards to Spark Launch and mental health stuff. So this is always really fun whenever you want to come on the show or anytime you want to just chat. Always love it. So, and anyone, please go check out the network. There's a lot of really cool shows. You are supporting people doing really actual good work in this world, which there's not a lot of at the moment. So
people who care. Thank you, guys.